I'm Doreen. I'm a compulsive overeater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day. I call them into my sponsor, and I don't eat between meals no matter what. And my abstinent date is the 5th of December 2022. Um, I was always finicky about food and about my weight. I was always sort of conscious of that. I was a bit chubby and sort of but in my house, in my parents' house, you had to finish your plate. You had to eat what they give you, you know. You couldn't be choosy or anything. But when I started, because I have a history with alcohol as well, and when I started drinking at the age of 15, I used to have I used to be depressed the next day, sort of. I know it was the start of alcoholism, but I used to go to the shop and buy a load of confectionery that would give me a high so I wouldn't feel so depressed. I didn't realize what I was doing at the time. Anyway, sort of my weight, sort of my mother would say, all your weight is booze, sort of I didn't realize it. But it was when I left. I joined the armed forces at one time. I didn't have a problem with my weight. I very rarely ate. But when I left the armed forces, I started to eat and drink, and I just ballooned, absolutely ballooned. I didn't think that it was food. I thought it was drink. And I went to AA and I lost weight. But obviously, years later, I came back. I give up smoking. And that's when the problems really started. I went from a size 14 to a size 24 in 9 months. I thought I was eating because of the cravings and it would stop. Eventually I'd settle down. But this was 12 years on and I was still doing the same. And I thought, what's going on? I paid trips to Weight Watchers, only to lose a couple of stone and then pack it in. To me, diets are made to be broken. So I couldn't stick at Weight Watchers. And then I was talking to someone sitting down and she mentioned something about she was drinking black tea. And I said, why are you drinking black tea? And then she mentioned GreySheeters. And, it was obvious I had a weight problem. Obvious to everyone, I had a weight problem. And, I listened and we chatted and I was going to stop. But then I thought, no, I'll go back to Weight Watchers. It's too extreme, sort of. I never be able to do it. And it's too extreme, sort of. No. I couldn't give up carbohydrates. And then I got bigger and bigger. And, sort of people would sit there looking at me sort of like I was in the fellowship, AA fellowship at the time. I still am. And I was talking about a spiritual program and I was the size of God knows what, taking my alcohol orally, solidly, And I had a warning off the doctor. I've got heart trouble. And it was due to my weight and my smoking in the past. And then I asked if I could join GreySheeters, if I could have a number and phone GreySheeters. And I went on the London meeting on the Saturday morning. Now, I thought it was going to be plain sailing. What effect did food have on me? Sort of, I ate too much. I was greedy. I can, sort of cravings, sort of, I don't understand cravings, sort of, I ate when I was hungry, which was all the time. I ate all the time. But when I realized then that, when I realized, sort of, it was a 1 day at a time program and sort of, and I thought it was going to be simple, easy, give up food, no problem, And then I had relapse after relapse after relapse. And then I realized it wasn't easy, it wasn't something to be mucked about with. It was something to be taken seriously, and serious enough I could die, So, I started to take it seriously. I got a sponsor who takes me through the steps, who knows about bullshit, sort of won't let me get away with anything. and I'm willing. I listen to her. I do as I'm told, because being in the liquid fellowship, then you learn what is a good sponsor and a good sponsor, and you value them. You value them, and I value her. What's my life like now? Well, I've got 110 days, and what my life is like now. I've got a certain talk about clarity. I've got a certain amount of clarity, not all there, but a certain amount of clarity. I'm able to work things through without reacting. Work things through with, sort of not. I'm not a saint. I'm not a saint, but I'm able to work things through, sort of to see the other side of this of things. Sort of, it's not all about me. Sometimes it can be, but it's not all about me. Sort of be more generous and more charitable, because doing the steps and working the program, I began to realize that though someone called me virtuous, and sarcastically, sort of Doreen's being virtuous, but what I was being was bitchy and sarcastic, and they spotted it, and that can be one of my failings, and charitableness, sort of judgmentalness, and I don't like that, I want to get rid of it. And this is all about because I put down food, sort of, I think it's natural now that I weigh my meals. Before it'd be, oh God, sort of pull out the scales, do this, do that, sort of, it's a pain, But now it's natural that I do that, I don't have a meal unless it's weighed. That, as my sponsor says, that food is not my food unless it's been on the scales, I lost a pet Christmas time, I had her since she was 10 weeks old, and she was 16 when she died. We had to put her to sleep. And I broke my heart. I've had loss in the fellowship before I came to GreySheeters. I've had loss. But this one, I really felt the loss. I've had human loss, but I felt the loss of that cat, and I still feel the loss of that cat, sort of. And, sort of, it dawned on me, this is grief. You've never really, cold turkey experience grief, sort of, and it takes time to go. And, I was instant fix. If something was uncomfortable, shove food in my mouth, something I didn't like, shove food in my mouth. Someone knocked the door, shove food in my mouth, on the phone, shove food in my mouth, sort of, and I don't have to do that today. The one thing that scared me about GreySheeters was, how was I going to have such small portions? Because I was a big eater, and it's enough. There's enough. The only time I feel as if it doesn't hit the sides is when I'm in a resentment or I'm feeling a bit negative, and then the food doesn't hit the sides, but it's enough for me, I'm grateful to GreySheeters. I'm still grateful. And one day at a time, I will be grateful. What I realize is not a diet, it's a way of life. And, sort of, I have to take it one day at a time. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I've learned to live in the day, keep it in the day, So I'm grateful. I'll leave it there.